مساء الخير, good evening, a very warm welcome to all our participants today from all over. We're very happy to have Brother HansHeierth with us today. Before that, I just want to say that we have Arabic translation. Sister Sheikha is translating the Arabic Zoom. My name is Mona Al-Arfaj. I'm from Kuwait, one of the coordinators for Harmony House Kuwait. And today's series is one of our Saturdays series that we are sharing every Saturday. So today we have a very interesting topic, the power of forgiveness by Brother HansHeierth, who's joining us all the way from Munich, Germany today. I will start by sharing a few lines on Brother Hans. He is a lawyer by profession, specialized in environmental law. At present, he is working in the Bavarian Ministry of Environment and Consumer Protection, heading the department that deals with security of nuclear power plant, protection from radioactive activities, and the storage of radioactive waste. Hans has been a student of Raj Yoga meditation since 1990, so almost 30 years. And he is the coordinator of the Raj Yoga Center in Munich since 1995. His specialty is to look at the spiritual knowledge of the Brahma Kumaris from a universal perspective of science, psychology, and philosophy. He shared his insights in lectures and seminars in more than 40 countries in the last 25 years. So, Brother Hans, the
Okay, so thanks so much, Sheikha, and so great that you invite me.
Platform is yours. It's very beautiful. And so I actually, is my sound okay? I actually been seeing Hans in some gatherings, and it's very interesting just listening to his point of view of science, how he looks at spirituality from a science background. So I'm sure we will have a very enjoyable seminar today. Thank you very much, Hans, for taking the time and being with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, so I thank you for invitation. I think it's on my side. First of all, can you hear me properly? Can you give me a hint?
I can hear you very well. I think the others also. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm here from, yes, okay. I'm here from Munich, and it's a pleasure to be with you. I'm not so much used to this kind of technique. So if anything is not so well, please forgive me, which is our topic. And normally also I'm used to really communicate with the audience and to have a good conversation. But for me, it's also a bit new to just be a speaker on myself and hope you and have no feedback much, but I hope it still will work. So always something new to experiment. So let's start at least with a little bit involving everyone in terms of a relaxation on the topic. So what I would like you to think about for a moment, for a minute or so, what is for you forgiveness? Like create your own definition. How would you define forgiveness? So like forgiveness is ... like one sentence, and how would you define it? And maybe during the conversation or my lecture, you will recognize your own definition, or maybe you could share something which helps me. But that you are getting into a topic, have his thoughts. What is forgiving for you?
Hans, would you like the participants to write what is forgiveness for them, or
It would be
you're
nice,
just
but
asking
it
to
should be
reflect?
in English.
Yeah, some of them said letting go
Yeah.
of self-ego in peace,
Oh, good. Very nice. Come to that.
letting go of hurt and pain,
Nice.
I think not holding to anything heavy in our hearts,
Yes. So good. Very good thoughts. It's all right. I can
freeing
see some.
ourselves.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can see freeing oneself, gift for myself. It's probably all of us, what you mentioned will be somewhere what I wanted to share. So it's a sense I am not sharing anything new. It's like we know all about it. That's again what is always actually my experience when I give a lecture and I ask people, there comes such a wealth of knowledge, understanding, or background that almost everything I wanted to say was there. So what I'm doing is to give an overview maybe, and maybe a little bit more structure and or some inspiration which may help you further to use that power. So I like to start actually with the topic, it says power of forgiveness. I found this interesting that you gave me the topic and you used the word power. What is power? It's an energy in the end, inner energy. And power, I mean, our inner power always has one purpose only, and is to change something. So we always need power to change circumstances or ourselves, or sometimes we try also to change others with our power. Can we change others? Who tried it? I think we all tried, but usually not very successful, I guess. But this power of forgiveness, in fact, it has the potential to change not only the circumstances, not only myself, but actually even others. I had this thought today, so that was new to me, thinking about power and forgiveness. And that's why I think it's highly interesting to sort of check out this power, and it's good to understand it a little better. Oh, by the way, if I'm too fast for the translator, please give me a hint. So then I try to be a bit, leave some space in between. Let me do anyway. So forgiveness. So how do we recognize actually that there is something we have to forgive, or we should forgive, or we could forgive? How do we see? Of course, if we are really angry on someone, he did something, it's quite clear, it's possibility to forgive. So I think there are two kind of directions in terms of forgiveness. One is to forgive others, but also there is another aspect which is same important, I think, is to forgive ourselves. So both have to be considered, and I will sort of look at both a little bit. So, but how do we recognize? So in terms of others, what I was realizing when I think about when is there something I hold in terms of others, it usually has to do with justice, or better, they did something which I found was not just, it was not right, or they made a mistake. But justice is a very deep aspect in that, also why we hold on to it. We come to that later. And our reaction when we feel like somebody was not just to us, did some injustice, then is like blaming, or we get angry, or we even try to look for revenge. Maybe we can punish that person or do something to him, or we attack, so, or we withdraw, so we sort of turn away from that person, or we close ourselves down, or this kind of, or we start criticizing and telling others about that person, how bad he is, or we become arrogant. Or maybe another thing also, when it becomes very strong, is like even hatred or something of that nature can come up in us. So these are all signs when such kind of emotions, such kinds of attitudes are coming into our consciousness, maybe even again and again, about someone, that there is a good reason to look at the topic of forgiveness. And in terms of ourselves, how we realize we could forgive ourselves something, I think that has to do usually with mistakes we made. And that creates, depending on what it was, a guilt feeling, or we start getting fear, or we punish ourselves, even as a kind of self-punishing, or we become heavy and feel depressed, or we start limiting ourselves. Certain things we don't do anymore because we are afraid of making mistake, or we deny ourselves even, or and for result of all of those kind of reactions in ourselves, or the way we deal with it, is then in the end a lack of self-respect. So that's the ultimate result of when we make mistakes and we're not able to forgive it ourselves. So maybe again, to be a bit in one-side communication, maybe you check, do you have to forgive something to yourself or to others? Is there anything in your heart which you feel should be removed? Then maybe in the process you can keep this in mind, and the ideas I may give you can practically try out, to do something with it. But I think we all have the one or other thing to forgive ourselves. When we look into the external world, into the world of, states and nations and all of that, and cultures, we find, I think in most cultures I have come across, or countries, I'm not sure how it's in Arabic countries, but in many other countries all over, I have seen one thing: in their constitutions, or in their codes, there is something called amnesty. Maybe, I don't know if a translator knows amnesty, which means a kind of an act of pardon, which can be given to very bad criminals, which means they are set free. They are, and this right, this act of pardon, or this amnesty, it can be given usually by the king of a country or of a nation, or by the president if there is no king, but usually the highest authority has this right of an act of pardon, which is a kind of mercy, and what it shows in all the constitutions. Constitution is really laws and rights and obligations and everything. and also there's courts which decide, and there what they decide normally, that's really what is valid, and politicians can usually not go against it and no one else. So for court decision is usually the last decision. But over it, over the law, is his act of pardon, is his mercy. And mercy is in the end an expression of love. And so which means the law of love stands above the law, above our laws. And that's an interesting recognition, I think. And it's a very interesting principle also. And it's not only valid for criminals or really people who have done something extremely bad, but it's also valid for me, for you, for all of us, And I give you an example. Like maybe 10 years ago, I saw, it's a long time, but I remembered, I saw a lady, she gave her, was an interview. She was old, but she was in Second World War, and she was treated by the Nazis very bad. She was in one of these concentration camps, and whole family was killed, and for some, and she was like twins, and her sister was killed, and with experiments which they did with twins, and in a very horrible way, and for some very strange reasons, all this torture, she survived it, and that was maybe then 30, 40 years later, and she said, and also for doctor, which did all of that, he was still alive, he was known, and she said, it took me some years, some decades even, but ultimately I was really able from my heart to forgive this person and to forgive these people. And since then I'm innerly free and I'm in peace. And then they asked, did you meet that doctor? And she said, yes, once I met him, and I felt I have no grudges, no anger, no hatred, anything hold against him. I was very neutral to him. And that was for me, and she was very honest, and was a powerful interview I never forgot, and I could see his power of forgiving. It can really change your world. Sometimes somebody says something to us, and it may hurt us in that moment strongly, and maybe it destroys our whole life. Maybe for the next 20, 30, 40 years, we hold something against that person and don't speak to that person, and we feel that person has destroyed our life, and things like that. Many people hold such things, and maybe that person said something and didn't even want to say something like that, and didn't notice it was such a hurt. So we have to look in ourselves. Is something of that in us? And it's really very, very useful and necessary to remove it. So looking at this topic of forgiveness, I like to look at it from a spiritual perspective. And what I think I like to sort of share with you, like a little process, how to do it, what is useful, some steps we may take if we want to do something in ourselves. And I think the first step is to bring in your mind to remember that original scene or that circumstances or what happened, what we hold in our heart, that against someone, or a mistake we have made maybe a long time ago and we still feel guilty, or to first of all is to bring that situation into your consciousness, and second step is to accept it as it is. It happened and it was there, and that's how it was there, and I accept it was there. But not only accept the situation, but also accept the feelings you have or the emotions which came along through that situation or that circumstances. For example, your guilt feelings or the anger you hold, accept it. It's there. That's, I think, the first step to just say it's there and I accept it's there. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but just to notice it, to be aware of it, and to say, okay, to admit it, to be clear and to not deny it, not want to look away, but see what it is and look at it. And that's the first step. It's necessary, because if you don't see it, if you don't make it visible to ourselves, we cannot get rid of it. But then I think looking at it from a spiritual perspective is then the next step at the situation. First we look at the situation that it was, like in our normal life, what happened, but then it's also necessary to look at it from a different perspective, and that we would call like a spiritual view or a deeper analysis, let's say. And to do that, we can sort of ask ourselves like some questions. So like maybe the first question could be, what is it that actually happened to me in that circumstances, and maybe it's still happening now? What exactly is it? And there can be different answer, but answer could go in this direction, like what happened to me is I got a burden in my subconsciousness, and it's also often in my consciousness, maybe. Or what happened to me is I ran like into a bondage with a past, or a bondage with some scene, maybe long ago or not so long, but definitely with something which happened in the past. And it doesn't exist anymore because that scene is gone. It's dead, it's not existing. But what we do is we keep this experience of those scenes alive in our consciousness. And it's like a fire. We keep a fire burning in our mind. And this is just a creation in our mind. And that creates suffering. And we should be also aware that we live only in our minds. Our whole life is taking place in our mind. It's not taking place in our neighborhood or in our house or in the street where we go. No, we just take pictures of those scenes around us with our eyes, and we listen to sounds. But then we take these pictures, and these pictures we sort of put in our mind. We sort of make a creation in our mind, like a display. And what we experience is the picture only in our mind, but we never experience physically the outside. It's only information we get from outside in forms of vibrations or pictures or tones or temperature or whatever, and that we display in our mind, and that's where we experience it. So why I'm sort of imposing on that, or I think it's important because those experiences with old scenes or with old emotions, they are a creation in our mind in that second where we think about it and remember it. And so that's why we create the suffering ourselves. And that has an impact on the quality of our life. Basically, the quality of our life is completely dependent on what we do in our mind, what we create there, what we allow there, what we think about, how we feel about it. So that is the first question, you know, from a spiritual view. It's more like looking in myself and what happened to me. And I got burdened. I keep to something, holding on from the past, which is not existing anymore. And I'm creating suffering in myself. I think that was something also people said before. Then we can ask ourselves a few more questions. And if you like, you can note them down. Those kind of questions are quite useful if you want to learn to forgive yourself. So one question is simple questions, you know, who is suffering most? You know, when I think about that and I blame that person in my mind, I criticize, I get angry, I want to search some revenge, and this kind of feelings and emotions and thoughts, if they occupy my mind, who is suffering most? I think it's quite clear. I am suffering most. But the other person is also suffering. So I come to that because we send those energies also to the other person. Then another question could be, does it help me or the other person or anyone else if I keep that in mind and start thinking and feeling about it, and it turns it and, you know, make this fire burn in my mind, you know, does it really help anyone? Does it change anything? It's another question. I don't think so. You know, maybe for 10 years you can every day think the same thing. It doesn't change anything. And it doesn't help anything. It doesn't help me, it doesn't help anyone. Then comes the next question, naturally. Why then do I hold on to it all the time? You know, when it doesn't help anything, doesn't change anything, I'm suffering most. I mean, there's no sense, there's no reason to even 1 second hold on to it. So why we are still doing that? And I think maybe we are not aware, actually. That could be one answer. What we are actually doing to ourselves and how unlogic it is. So such questions can solve that problem. So we become aware, but there's another, I think, a more subtle reason is what in spirituality is sometimes called the law of karma, the law of action, or you could say we want a balance in our energy exchange with that other person. So we feel there's an imbalance, there's an injustice. He took some energy from us, and or we haven't got the energy we deserve, and now we want it back, or we want to punish the other one because he did injustice to us. So we feel our relationship is energy-wise not in balance, and this becomes like a curse. You know, we want the others to suffer, and through that we come into a deep kind of emotional bondage, and with a very strong retroactive effect on ourselves. So it bounces back to us. So we try to send negative thoughts and feelings to the other, but ultimately they come into our own mind, in our own subconsciousness, and so we are the ones who have the most negative effect. And this bondage, emotional bondage to keep on doing that, because we are suffering all the time, so we don't feel there's a solution. In fact, it becomes like a negative kind of spiral down, and with loss of energy and self-punishing and others trying to punish, and so these thoughts and feelings we have, of course, they go out, they are transferred. So the other one is also getting some negative feedback from us, and it's good to understand also what our thoughts and feelings do. They have an effect. It's like sending out energy, subtle energy. And we have two sides with energy. One is like for light, like which is like for thought, and for vibration, it's like for feelings, it's like for color. And one is like for strength, when we have a very determined, strong thought, that is like a strong focused energy, like a laser beam. And it can have strong feelings, so it has very strong colors. And when they are negative, of course, they create that kind of feeling in others. For example, when we are happy, people say their eyes are beaming. So it's that subtle light of love and of happiness, which comes out through the eyes and which others can experience. But the same is with negative thoughts and feelings. So what we should realize in our spiritual reflection is basically it's not very clever, and it's actually quite stupid to keep the memory of this kind of scene and my reactions on it going on. And it's of no use, to realize that when we come to that point and have a deep understanding, a deep wish, a deep realization, we don't want this anymore because it's totally nonsense. Then is for questions, how can we get rid of it? How can we dissolve this emotional bondage? How? And I think again, we need deeper understanding of what is forgiveness, and then it's more easy to get rid of it. And so I ask you to find some definitions, and you found some nice ones. And so I like to share also a few aspects what forgiveness is. It's a process, in a technical terms, to let go something of a past to which we are holding on to. I think somebody said this and wrote this in the feedback. So we hold on to something from the past, and it's to forgive means to let go. It's like a process to let this go. If we look at least at the English word, it's very nice. And in Germany, it functions also. Forgiving. Literally, if you take it's forgiving. Even the word itself says we shouldn't keep it. It's not for keeping. The word says it's for giving it away, for letting it go. So even the word itself holds like the method or what is to be done to be free of that. But another way we could look at forgiveness is it's basically an act of love for myself. And what is actually love is again a big question, and I think 1,000 books. But so I like just to take out one aspect of it, and it's one essential point of love is to give without expecting anything. So that's a basic definition, one of many definitions of love, or one of many aspects. And that is the nature of our heart ultimately. Forgiving is based on compassion, on an attitude of mercy, of understanding, of inner goodness. I think it's very deep inside. I think behind compassion and mercy and understanding and goodness is again love. And more specific, I think love for truth and also love for goodness, for love for the inner beauty, maybe also. Another way to look at what forgiveness is could be, it's like a cleaning process of our old rubbish which we have collected, like to, or like a healing process of healing for soul from old sicknesses. And for virus are like anger or blame or rejection or heaviness. All these things should be cleaned out. So it's a process of cleaning and also a process of healing my inner world and my inner personality. Once I thought came also like forgiveness could be also like an attitude, and I would say it's the attitude of those who are strong. I think if someone is strong, he will always be prepared quickly to forgive. And that is also, maybe there's not enough power. In that sense, we have to think about how to gain more of this power of forgiveness. So these are, some kind of explanations what forgiveness is, looking in it from different sides. Beside that, maybe some other realizations could be helpful for us to forgive. And one of those realizations could be everyone is responsible for what they do. So the others are responsible what they do. And I am responsible for what I do, or let's better say, in the definition from before, what I am creating in my mind, because that is my world ultimately. So I am responsible for my own world, and others are responsible for their world. That could be a helpful realization. Another one is that came from one of our old yogis. I heard it once and I never forgot it. And he said, no one can hurt me. I can only hurt myself. And I can use others to hurt myself. But others cannot hurt me. So that is something, is a deep point, and it's, I think, worth to think about it. That all can help in preparing for grounds to get rid of things, if we understand that deeply. No one can hurt me. I can only use others to hurt myself. So that takes courage. That is complete self-responsibility. But another aspect, which, or another kind of realization could be, forgiveness gives us release. It's releasing us from burdens, and through that we gain back a piece of our freedom also. So because those burdens, they sort of limit our freedom, and so in that sense it is like releasing ourselves. And maybe another realization which could be quite helpful is, if I do not forgive myself or others, doesn't matter, I will repent it. At some point I will have to repent it. And maybe that is another motivation to get rid of it as soon as possible. So it's good to let go and actually forget, even not just forgive, forget completely. But again, the question, so how to do it? So I think we got enough motivation now. If you have sort of taken on board some of those realizations and insights, that should create that deep wish or that deep motivation. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to hold anything against anyone, especially not against myself. And please let me get rid of that as soon as possible, as quickly and absolutely, right? So in that sense, we are at this point. That's what I at least wanted to bring you to realize that how important and how useful and how it's actually the only way to live our life properly. So what to do? How to forgive? And one thing, I think what it ultimately is, we have to make a decision. We have to make an inner decision with deep determination, with deep realization, as I said, based on all these understandings and what nonsense is not to forgive. So it's a decision in the end to detach. Detach from what? From what we detach. Basically, from our suffering, from our burdens. And also, I come back to that point, to detach from our limited understanding of justice. And here comes the ego in, because we think we are right. We know what is right and wrong, and we feel we are not treated just. And that is a very strong bondage. And so it's also necessary, I think, to let go of this limited, very superficial understanding of justice. Like this point I mentioned, that others do what they do. They are responsible for themselves, and I'm responsible for myself. And no one can hurt me, I do it myself. All those points give us a different understanding also of this aspect of justice. And I just have to understand, whatever people do, it will come in front of them at some point. It's not I have to play the judge. I don't have to be the prosecutor to follow them. But mainly I have to take care of myself. Of course, if I can put something right, I should do it. But I shouldn't hold on to it in an emotional way and keep it burning for a long, long time. So I can look at how I understand justice and means to understand this spiritual law of karma, of energy exchange much more on a deeper level. And then I can let go ego, because I understand I don't have to put this right. I only have to take care of myself. And then, like, forgiving becomes almost like an attitude. It's like it can be like a permanent process. Even someone who again and again says wrong things to me, or makes mistake, or treats me not in the right way, and he does it again and again and all the time. So then actually I can forgive that person all the time, instantly. When anything happens, instant forgiveness. So maybe that sounds a bit, strange. Maybe I start thinking, well, that means I am weak. I'm not doing anything against him. I allow that person to do whatever he wants to do and don't put limits and all of that. But if it doesn't help, we have tried before. So it's not a question of weakness. It's the ego in me which reacts. And if I let this aside and create more humility, but basically it's more about protecting myself. So I'm not weak. I just I protect myself all the time, which means I don't let any burdens come into myself anymore, which later on I have to clean out again. So that is, of course, ego doesn't like that, but humility likes it. And because I don't burden myself and I don't sort of put rubbish in myself. That's why when we understand the power of forgiveness, we can actually use it any moment. If there's anything we don't like, or we get discontent, or we react, instantly use that power of forgiveness. Let it go instantly. Don't let it in. And make yourself free and said, my main aim is to protect myself and to feel good and free and be powerful and don't lose all my energy in something which is just a game of the ego and the mind. So one aspect more in the process of forgiveness for those who are religious minded, and as far as I know, I've had mostly people coming in that meeting from a Muslim background, and Allah, and so what is Allah's role in that? And of course, other religions have other names and other God, but what is Allah's role? And I read a little bit in the Quran, and what I noticed is probably the word which is mostly used with Allah in the whole Quran is compassionate one, the one who has compassion or mercy. I don't know which translates better, which word. So, which means Allah has forgiven everyone already, all the time, right? But to understand, that understanding maybe can help me to forgive myself and others too, because I'm also always forgiven from up above. But so the question is only, can I forgive also myself, and can I forgive others? But knowing that the Supreme, that Allah has forgiven me already, no matter what, and no matter how often, maybe that is an inspiration to do the same goodness to myself and to others. So in that sense, I think such a religious understanding can help us also and promote that process and strengthen it. Then one more question maybe which you might have is, okay, you can forgive others and yourself, but what happens, or what to do if someone doesn't want to forgive me? Like, somebody holds something against me. Maybe I have made a mistake in the past, or maybe it's just his imagination even. But he will send all the time negative energy to me and, speak bad about me and all these kind of things. So how can I what can I do that this person forgives me? Or what should I do in such a situation? And I think, again, the first step is I have to forgive myself and I have to forgive the other. No matter what he does, no matter what I have done, get rid of that, of that effects. But still, the negative feelings and the negative intention of that person come to my mind in my subconsciousness. So, second thing I could do is make myself more strong, myself more independent, which means full of self-respect, ultimately. I don't know if you know this TV series. It's like a fantasy movie series. It was old. It was called Enterprise. There were always this like spaceships, and that was Enterprise was one of them. And then the enemies came and they shoot this like laser beams on them to destroy their engines or their ship. It was Star Trek, I think, in English, right? And then they put up their shields, like energy shields. And when they were strong enough, they were like the others were shooting, and it went down 60% and 40% and down to 20%. Then they had already little damage. And so it's, I think, the same with us. It's like if we create a lot of positive thoughts, if we have a lot of self-respect, if we really feel that genuine love for ourselves, that is becoming like a protection shield. And if that is really strong, the negative feelings and thoughts of others, they cannot penetrate through, they are not blocked. And so that can be a protection shield for ourselves. So that is the second thing we can do. Then, okay, now we have forgiven ourselves, that person, we are protecting ourselves, but that person still, has this inside, and we would really love to help that person to get rid of that, because the person is still suffering, maybe because of something minor or whatever, maybe, and maybe we have put something out, made a mistake, a big mistake maybe, and that person is since then very, very angry with us. And we really would love that this suffering in that person also ends, right? But that person doesn't talk to us, and he doesn't want to listen, he doesn't want to speak to us, he doesn't want to change his mind, so, but we still don't like that situation with that person. So what can we do in that sense? I think we can do some, when we have no other chance, we can do one thing, which is to send good wishes. Because that is the opposite of negative energies, of like destructive energies. Forgiveness enables for good wishes to be created, and they act like a healing power. Good wishes are kind of an expression of a power of love in the end. And I had an example, there are many examples actually how good wishes work, but I saw also a documentary of a lady in England in a church, and she was for decades working like all day for the people, they're helping everyone, cleaning the church, speaking to everyone, always positive. And then she got cancer, and it was going very fast, and she was in a final stage, and the doctor said they can't help anymore, and she will die latest in 2 weeks. And so, well, she accepted and shared with a priest and with a community. And because she was so loved, and nobody wanted to accept that she is gonna die. And what they did, they decided every day, certain times, few hours actually, to pray for her. And it was hundreds, 200-300 people who said every day a few hours praying for her. And after a few days, her whole cancer was gone. It was literally disappeared. The doctors couldn't believe it. And that is and of course you have not a physical proof of that, and no scientific proof, but it was quite obvious, that this intense love and pure intention and pure good wishes and prayers of those around her, and so many of them whom she has served, they all brought that energy back to her, and that had so much power that it could do something no medicine could do and no operation could do. It really took away that cancer in literally a few days, maybe even faster. I don't know, but that was an interesting story, and I think there are many of those. So yeah, good wishes are only good wishes when they are selfless. There's a big difference between wishes and good wishes. Good wishes are selfless and wishes are selfish. Or let's say like this, good wishes is I am giving an energy from inside out. I'm sharing my energy of love with someone. And wishes, I want energy from outside in. I'm needy, I need something. So it's exactly the opposite. So there's a big difference between wishes and good wishes, right? Because it's completely opposite direction. Selfish wishes have not much power, but selfless wishes for others, good wishes, even for myself. You know, I can give even myself good wishes. When they come from a pure heart, they have a lot of power. So we have to check our attitude, you know, when we are attached to someone and we want this one to become healthy or become better, it doesn't have much power because we still have intentions. We want something. We want that person to be good because I am attached to that person. I want something. I think this person is mine. So in a sense, I want something to become better, which is mine. And that is the opposite of being selfless. So I think good wishes, one could define like, I see the other one in his true, let's say, original being, his original form of balance, of perfection, of power, of beauty. In one word, I see the other in his original divinity and dignity, right? So wishful thinking is not good wishes. And yeah, looking at this, our ultimate state is, that is from teachings of Brahma Kumaris, I like this, is the lighthouse, is that tower which is outside in front of the sea where there's a lot of storms, and it can show everyone the way who doesn't know the way, who needs direction, and it can save lives. It doesn't want anything for it. It just stands there and gives this light. It doesn't expect a thank you. It doesn't want energy back. So also our good wishes, we have like, it's like an information character which they are carrying. They carry the information which can show others their way, to their inner nature, to their inner truth, their inner power. And once they come in touch more and more with that, it's more easy for them to let go and create their self-respect and not punish themselves all the time and create suffering for themselves. So that is our ultimate state, to be a lighthouse in the world, ultimately for everyone, but of course, mainly for those around us. And I think that is the result of, if we succeed to let go, to forgive, to forget, whatever burden we have in ourselves. And I think in a sense, it is what I wanted to share with you. And of course, if there are now any few questions, or anything wasn't understood, or you like to make a comment, most welcome, of course.
Thank you very much, Hans. I think what I take from this is sometimes we forgive others, but we forget to forgive ourselves. That's the big lesson. Very interesting. There is a question, the first question.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we usually forgive, meaning we do not have grudge against that soul,
Yeah.
but somehow we cannot forget what he or she told me. How to overcome this?
To remember means we bring it into our mind. And we cannot forget it so easily because we have brought it many times in our mind. And so we created that habit of remembering it. And it's like the subconsciousness got programmed to send it up into our mind, into our screen, into our consciousness, in a screen every now and again. Because before, we always accepted it and we liked it. In a sense, we thought about it, we went into the emotion. So our subconsciousness thinks that is something we want, right? And because of that, it will for a while send it up. But when it comes up, and of course we have forgotten, so we don't go into the deep emotions, but still we remember, it also means we are still holding a little bit onto it, but basically it's a habitual thing. I think then we have to understand or to look at it and say it's not worth to think about it or even to remember it. And we talk to ourselves and tell our subconscious, no need to send it again and again. It's gone. It's no use anymore. And or what when it comes, we have certain powers which we have also learned in Raja Yoga. And one is to pack up or to put a full stop. And when it comes again and again, it's useful to use those powers. So, okay, the first thought comes, it comes like a memory of a scene or like a thought about that person. But instantly I can, with the power of backup or power of put a full stop, I said, stop, I don't think about this any longer. It's gone, I'm free of it, I dissolved it. There's no need even to remember it, right? And so this could be an option. Or you can accommodate it. It comes and you say, yeah, you are a lovely scene, you want to help me to create balance. But actually the balance is already here. So there's no need you come anymore and you be nice to it. So it depends what is your nature. You can stop it, you can pack it up, you can, be nice to it, you can sort of accommodate it. But when you do any of those methods, then it loses completely its power and it gradually comes to known to the subconsciousness that you deal differently with it because it learns from your new way to look at it. And so gradually after some time, it comes less and less and less because it's disconnected from these emotions. It's not like a very visible plant in your subconsciousness any longer. It becomes like smaller and smaller and smaller. And at some point, you don't remember it. And then you meet that person, maybe it comes up for a moment. And later on, you meet few times, and suddenly a good feeling comes up because it's like the good wishes which have become a habit and the good feelings. And then it will, you don't even remember it after some time anymore, even when you meet that person or you come to that place where it happened or something like that. Okay?
Thank you very much. There was a similar question that is applied to relationships, but I guess you have answered that. Like the question was how to forgive in relationships.
Basically, all the things we hold in us, 99% are coming from relationships. I think when the traffic light gets red and we don't like it, okay, in the moment we are angry, but we don't hold it. We don't next day think this stupid traffic light was red yesterday and it really was a problem for me, right? It's never the external objects or the situations which we hold something against it. It is always other people, which means it's always relationship anyway. So for whole forgiving takes place either in relationship to myself, which is self-forgiving, or in relationship with others. That is where forgiven plays its role.
Yes. The other question is, what if the other person gets the forgiveness as a weakness?
Yeah, but that's again that person's problem, not mine, because I am not weak. In this world nowadays, sometimes it looks like somebody who is not fighting, who is not using his power to create suffering or all of that is weak. But in fact, to create suffering, to become angry, to criticize, that is weakness itself. But they have a feeling it is strong. And it's like an alcoholic, he's very weak, but he drinks his beer and he feels I am strong. But in fact, he's even more weak because his discrimination power has now also gone. So there's no more power. In the same way, when the ego steps in and people think, oh, this person is weak. When I'm strong, I don't react on it. When I react on it and I sort of feel, oh, I'm weak, well, how does these people look at me? It's my ego which thinks it's weak. But if I'm in my self-respect, then I will not take it in. I would instantly forgive that person in a sense. I say, okay, it's your attitude. You don't understand what is strength. You don't know what is spirituality. You don't know what is inner power. Inner power is very soft, is very sweet, but is extremely effective, and it can change things much better than external force, which is weak, is ultimately spiritually point of view, its weakness, all of his force and all of his things, because it creates suffering. We should be aware that the most power is actually in peace and silence. And even in Germany, we have a saying, the power lies in stillness. And so if we are inner silent, we are powerful, and we don't have to prove it. We know it ourselves. And if others don't see it, it's fine. Time will come and they will see. There's no need to prove, but it's also no need to doubt ourselves in any way. Okay?
It was very nice. Another question, forgiveness and karma.
Yeah.
Do those two work hand in hand? If you want to forgive or want to be forgiven and ready, but you have karma on the other hand, what is the situation here?
Yeah, that's what I said. If we have a proper understanding of karma, actually forgiving is one of the processes to dissolve karma. No, I have made a mistake and I am sort of not suffering, I have a guilt all the time. And to deeply understand the law of karma means I know which energies I have to create in myself and to adopt or to use or apply to balance it. And that's actually the power of forgiveness, the power of love. It can heal all of those things. So the power of forgiveness is one expression of love. There's another way to settle karma. There's only these two, and the other one is by repentance, which is suffering. But I think it's better to dissolve it, to settle it by forgiving and by love. It's a more beautiful way.
Yes, we can take two questions more. There's another question that how can I forgive someone that hurts me every day?
That's what I mentioned, no? That you have to come to, or it's very useful to come to an attitude of constant forgiveness. Because what is hurt is the own inner ego. And it's not that the other hurts me, but it's like I take the behavior in myself of that person and I judge it inside. And I judge it as wrong or as injustice or as against me or something like that. And that creates that suffering. It's actually my attitude I am applying to that behavior of that person, which is displayed in my mind by seeing it through the eyes or by hearing his words. So I can apply a different kind of how I deal with that. Of course, that person is with me. Maybe I cannot run away. I cannot avoid it. He sits next to me in office and constantly every day telling me how bad I am or what I'm doing wrong or whatever, or family, the husband says you are doing nothing right and you are always wrong. And so whatever it is, whoever it is, we have a choice to how we deal with that in our mind. That we have to understand. We have this power, we have this ability, and we have a choice, and we have also the capacity to sort of like form this differently, to melt it or to And it depends on our attitude. If we come already with an attitude of ego or of injustice or of, I am not respected or something like that, that creates karma in myself. That creates burden. And that becomes bigger and bigger. And that sort of destroys my life quality. So better to look at it with this attitude of forgiveness as a constant attitude, which means whatever others do, I can see it, I can hear it, it comes in my mind. I am not taking it in. I don't accept it. In a sense, whatever they say, I keep it with them. But I know I am who I am, and there's no need for me to go against it, to put it right, to have justice or anything. The process I described. I use others to create suffering in myself. They cannot make me suffer. To deeply understand that, and then I'm saying, okay, the others may do what they want. They are responsible. Whatever they do, it comes back to them at some point. But let me be clean. Let me be free of all of that. Let me have love and respect for myself. That's the only thing. It's my only task I have in that situation. To keep myself safe and protect myself and not let it in, not store all this rubbish because it becomes a burden and it destroys literally our life.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hans. I think we can take last question, then we can end maybe with meditation. Maybe we can be a sensible. Okay, so the question is, what led Mr. Hans to his spiritual enlightenment? If you can share in few thoughts, also your recommendations, take away from this lecture, like what would be your advice to remember always? Of course, you shared many of it on spiritual journey, enlightenment journey.
You mean in general from me or specifically from this lecture?
No, from you specifically.
From me personally.
Yeah.
For me, actually, what I would recommend everyone who seriously wants to change himself, who wants to develop power, is a regular spiritual study. And I personally can recommend what the sender you have in Kuwait offers. But just to listen sometimes to a lecture, of course, you can take essences of it and you can practice with it. But if you really like to get into a depth of understanding yourself, understanding the world around you, understanding where you come from, where you go to, getting very clear about all those questions. What is to be done now in this world? World is now extremely quickly changing. And where is my standpoint to it? What is my kind of perspective on it, which is really beneficial? What is my future? What is the future of the world? How is this all interwoven? What is spirituality? What is physical? How do they play together? To understand all those things in depth, it naturally creates in us an ability of strength and of taking care of ourselves differently and also helping others. And if that foundation of deep understanding is missing, you still can have good experience in meditation and all of that, but that gives stability, and I think which we need in the future a lot. So I would say deep spiritual study and good company who also study. Both, I think, is very useful.
Thank you so much, Hans. Will you be able to share a few thoughts in meditation after I do just two announcements, if that's okay?
How long should it be?
A few minutes is okay.
Okay, fine, no problem.
But I'll just end by really saying big thanks, Hans. I just remembered that you were going to visit Kuwait just
Yes,
before the lockdown.
almost came.
Here we are hearing you on Zoom, and hopefully we will see you soon sometime in Kuwait. And I just want to say that this program was also organized by Kuwait and Bahrain Meditation Center. We do some activities together. And the next program will be a program on Tuesday, 14th of July. And it is Lessons to Learn in Times of Crisis by Ken from Brazil. He's a consultant, he's an author, and he's a trainer. So that will be on Tuesday. And then we have on Saturday, we have Nizar Jum'a also, who is a businessman. Next Saturday, he will be joining us in a seminar on the topic of meditation as a business tool. So please join us for these two programs. And we have the contacts here on the screen. And I would like to thank all the participants who have also joined in the Arabic Zoom. And thank you, Sheikha. Thanks to all the hidden coordinators behind the scenes. And we will end with a few minutes of meditation. Thank you so much again, all of you, for joining today. Please, Hans, thank you.
Also to thank for listening, and I hope you all took little benefit or some new inspirations. And it was definitely worth to share a few thoughts. And yes, it was nice being with you. A different experience. I'm not physics expert. You may have seen my hair like in the wind that comes because I put another picture behind, because I'm just sitting in our living room. Our center was some other activities. So please excuse me for that little, maybe strange.
Looks like you are flying, Hans. So that's nice behind the sky.
Yeah, it's a storm above the mountains here. Okay, so it's all in our mind in the end. Okay, I speak a few thoughts. Maybe I don't know if you put some music with it or not. Anything possible. But wherever you are, just sit back and relax and be quiet. We heard a lot of thoughts. And now we use a few minutes to let them sink a bit deeper. Who am I? I am this thinking and feeling being. What do I want? I want peace, contentment, love and power, happiness and freedom. Why do I want this? Because it's my nature. It's my inner being. It's my inner truth. Deep inside, there's only goodness and beauty. If this is sometimes not in my life, it is good to have a look at it. Why is it? Why I'm not experiencing this peace and contentment? And I will notice there are a few things, maybe even many, from the past, which are again and again occupying my mind with different emotions and different painful vibrations. I don't like this anymore. I like to get rid of it. I like to have back my peace, my inner harmony, my contentment. For this, I make myself aware. These are all things from the past. They are gone. They are not existing anymore. They only existed for a moment. And I took a picture of it, or a little movie, and I have put it into my inner storage. And now it is time to erase it again. I don't need this movie any longer. Now I understand. It's only rubbish. It's only a burden. I don't need to hold on it. There are so many other good things. Let me concentrate on them. Let me display only good things. Why should I put on the screen of my mind any rubbish program of the past and look at it again and again? No need for that. I don't call it into my mind any longer. I create good thoughts and feelings, and I enjoy them. Peaceful thoughts, loving thoughts, thoughts of self-respect, of inner value, of inner beauty. I have so much of it. Why using my time for useless things? Why wasting my energy in the past? Let me be in the present. Let me contribute in a good way. Let me become active in sending out good vibrations. The world is in a big need of that. So many carry so many burdens in themselves. Let me show them how to get free. Let me become a helper and not someone who causes pain. It is easy. It needs a little understanding, and I have that. And I need a little determination. And maybe I have to make some decisions for myself, but only for my own well-being and for the well-being of others. And that is not difficult. It's actually very easy. Let me just do it. That's all. I am a peaceful being. My nature is inner power and silence. My nature is loving and helping, cooperating and supporting. That's it, who I am. Let me just display my nature. Let me create a good life of beauty and dignity and divinity. Om Shanti. I am a peaceful being. not this body, but a spirit, a soul. That's the essence of me. Om Shanti.
Thank you very much, Hans. That was beautiful end for our seminar today. A lot of appreciation from the chat box and a lot of thanks. So, vielen Dank. Thank you so much.
Nice. Yeah, so thanks again to you, to Aruna, to everyone who was involved, Mona, and so on, and have a very nice evening. And it was an honor for me I mean, when I hear you put me in a line with Ken and all these wonderful souls, so it's such an honor. So thanks so much. And yeah, it was for me also nice because I listen to my own thoughts and feelings, and that even enhances myself if there is this opportunity. So again, thanks for that opportunity also. And who knows, see you sometime. It's on our agenda actually to come back to Kuwait and,
Sure.
and to do what we wanted to do. And I hope situations will allow this. And so looking forward to that. And thanks again and have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Sure. Thank you very much, Hans. Good night. Bye bye.
Good night.
Bye bye. Thank you for everyone. Bye
Yes.
bye.